Okay. In theory, I'm live. Let's see if anybody shows up. Looks like I've got one visitor. Hey, Winnie. Thank you. Can you hear me? Awesome. Oh, wait, you. All right. Got some folks showing up for me. How you guys doing? Hopefully you guys are ready to hear what I've got to say. Awesome. I'm going to give it a couple more minutes. See if we have any more arrivals for this current session of Set It Off Sundays. I think I love that name. Makes me feel fierce like the ladies in the movie. And hopefully everyone's having a good weekend. It's been a busy weekend, but a good weekend. Can't complain. Lots of good things happening. Can't complain about busy in a good way. So I'll go for that. I'm actually here a little nervous, I'll confess, since I've got, people near to me on. And I think it's interesting that the very first time I decided to go live on Facebook is because I want to share my organizing knowledge with the world and whatnot. That is not because I'm at a concert, and I think it's funny when people do that. So they're at a concert, showing the live session. It's like, I was here, but sometimes that's how it goes. And I'm reading the clock behind me backwards. Got a couple more minutes. If anyone has any questions, I'll say this as we're waiting. I'll try to get to them, pay attention and notice them as they come up, and answer any questions that anyone has regarding today's topic. And we're planning our Set It Off Sundays for the future. So if there are any topics that anyone thinks of that they want to see or hear about, rather, we're open for ideas and whatnot. We want to make sure that we're providing the information that that you guys want to hear, want to know about, and sharing any expertise that we have in those areas. And sometimes just doing research and learning learning things ourselves so that we can pass it on to you. Hi, Swan. How you doing? Thanks for joining. And let's see. I think I'm going to give it until maybe 7:05 or so before I get rolling on everything. Letting people realize that I'm on it. And I'm going to try to stop making this face, front of like I'm really serious. I'm giving you guys really great information, and it's really important. So I think that if I squint a little bit, that you guys will realize just how serious and important this is. So. Okay. I had a question in my mind, and then I forgot about it. Can everyone hear me? Sometimes I feel like my voice doesn't carry. Sometimes I feel like my voice doesn't carry. Thank you, Winnie. Yes, what we are talking about, organization is a very, very important thing. It's life or death. Actually, in some cases it actually is, but that's neither here nor there. I'm just realizing just how interesting this all is. Okay. And since I have a couple seconds here, I'm going to get a drink. Awesome. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. Welcome to Set It Off Sundays, Ebony Orderly Set It Off Sundays. I'm Carolyn Rogers, owner of Neat Nerd Solutions. And today's exciting topic will be paper management. I know you guys are all waiting on pins and needles to hear all about how to manage your papers. Hopefully you were able to join us for some of the other sessions in the month where Naima showed us all how to fold everything that we have, and Dina showed us how to master our master closets, and Shahida broke down how to set up your family's calendar so that everything is nice and flowing for your family. Visit our page and check them out if you didn't get a chance to. They're still available. And we're currently working on setting up our schedule for the April sessions of Set It Off Sundays. So feel free to give us some ideas. Even if we don't make them in April, we're always open. We always want to make sure that we're able to provide the information and things that you want to see in our lineup. We want to keep you coming back. And don't forget to share and like our page so that we can continue to give you the free and useful, hopefully useful content that you're looking for. So, and feel free to ask questions. I'll try to catch them as they come up and answer them and whatnot. And so let's go ahead and get started. So why is paper management important? Because the struggle is real. That's basically what it comes down to. I can't think of any feeling worse than needing some information and knowing that at some point I had it, but now I can't find it because it's in a pile of paper somewhere. It can make the difference between meeting a deadline or even sometimes knowing that you had the deadline at all in the first place. And as with all aspects of organization, paper management is also about time management. The less time you spend looking for things, especially paper. For some reason, paper seems to be especially frustrating to look through when you're trying to find something. But the less time you spend trying to look for something, the more time that you have to do the things you actually like to do. So organization is, if you think of it, it's kind of something that it needs to become a habit, basically. So in regards to paper, the best way to go from chaos to calm is to develop a system. And when I'm talking about a system, I'm not thinking about just, maintaining files and things like that. It's about how you handle the papers when they come in and developing habits to keep them organized. Because basically, there's no right or wrong way to handle papers. It really comes down to developing something that fits your personal needs. So for some people, a file cabinet may be great, setting up files and knowing exactly where to go. Some people don't operate in files. Like, for example, my mother, I decided I was going to organize her papers. I went and got them a file cabinet, set up all these files and told her, here, lady, this is what you do and blah, 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 X, Y, and Z. She still stacks papers because that's how... I don't know that she's even looked in the file cabinet. So, but that's a system that works for her. And it's okay if you're a stacker, as long as what you do is neat and it's functional for what you have to do. So how you do it is not as important as doing whatever it is consistently. And that is something that works for you. So when you're developing a paper management system, there are 4 basic things that you need. You want to establish a location for the necessary papers, eliminate unnecessary papers. That's going to be a whole lot of things. Necessary and unnecessary. Think about that. Necessary and unnecessary. So eliminating your unnecessary papers, avoiding creating unnecessary papers, and creating a method for retrieval. So basically, you want to decide where you're going to put it, get rid of the stuff that you don't need, avoid getting more stuff that you don't need, and making sure that you know how to find the things that you have that you do need. So when you're looking to, let's start with with establishing your location. It doesn't have to be a desk. It doesn't have to be a file cabinet. It could be a corner in the room, wherever it's functional. But the main thing about the location of where you keep your papers is that it is stocked with the things that you need. So if you do use trays, that the trays are there. If you have files, that you have pens and papers and things like that for writing things out and keeping your files. And another thing that's real important is keep a trash basket, recycle bin, shredder, or something like that nearby so that you can immediately handle the things that you don't need. So it can either go in recycle bin or trash, or if it contains sensitive information like your social security number, dates of birth, and things like that, that you can go ahead and shred it. right away, if that's possible, depending on the amount that you're dealing with. So basically, establish where you're going to put it, and then get rid of your unnecessary paper. So just like, again, other things with organization, paper clutter is a result of postponed decisions. So basically, you got something in hand and you didn't decide where to put it. That's pretty much what it comes down to. So piles grow out of control and because you didn't decide where to put it, especially when it comes to mail. So when you're trying to decide on the papers that you have, when you're looking at it, there are a few questions that you can ask yourself. It's like, okay, did I ask for this information? Is it available someplace else? Because sometimes, oftentimes we're in an age where we look at things online quite a bit. So I may have a paper that has some information, but I will never look at it because I'm more likely to go and look at that online. So there's no need for me to keep that paper. Is it current enough to be useful? Because sometimes we hold on to things for so long that the information on it is no longer useful to us. It's outdated or something has passed and whatnot. Here's one of my favorites. Can you identify specific circumstances under which you'll need this paper? And just in case is not a good enough reason. Because, I know people who have mountains of just in case paperwork. So things is like, I might need this later. I might need this. There are other ways to handle things that you might need. You have to decide if there are any legal or tax ramifications for keeping something. Is the information on the paper something that can affect you legally, or will you need it later for something like your taxes or anything like that? And basically that comes down to deciding what is the worst possible thing that could happen if I don't keep this paper with me, or if I don't keep it handy, and deciding how to proceed from there. When you have an inbox, if you're using an inbox, one of the things to keep in mind is that the inbox should not be a permanent home for your papers. Like you come in and grab your mail, you throw it on your inbox, you never look at it, and that's how an inbox can be a handy thing, but can get out of control if you let it. But there are 6 places that when you get paper in hand that where you can likely put it, what you can likely do with it. So when you get something in hand, you want to action it. Sometimes it's, an action where it's permanent, but something may be a delay. But basically, you want to make a decision about it. So it can either go in your inbox, like when it comes in, I don't have time to look at this right now, but I'm going to put it here, but I'm going to come back to this. The main thing is that you should visit your inbox very frequently and try to keep it clear. You can also put things in the trash or shredder. That's like another thing. As soon as you get it, junk mail. Eliminate junk mail immediately. Like, don't let junk mail, like when you get mail in, even if you can't read everything, at least go through a quick sort and decide this is junk. I don't need to look at this. I don't have to let it languish in with everything else that I will need to look at later. So eliminate that immediately. Things can go on your calendar. Now, calendars can be a really powerful tool as well. We think about calendars for time management, but it can also be a tool for paper management. Let's say you get an invitation or a meeting notice in the mail, then you don't have to keep that paper. If it has a date on it, something that you need to do or someplace that you need to be, go ahead and put it in your calendar and let the paper go. And you can use your calendar as a means of just to follow up on things. If you see something, whether it's a dated thing, it's like, I need to ask somebody a question about that. Let me put a note or a message somewhere with a reminder on it so that I'll go and do it. I don't have to keep the paper to make it happen. And that kind of goes along with the to-do list. I keep a to-do list on my phone and look at it obsessively. So that's like every 10 minutes, if I'm not busy, if I'm looking at my phone, I'm not necessarily searching Facebook. I'm probably looking at my to-do list trying to decide what else I need to do and what else I can get done. So keep a to-do list. So if you get papers in the mail and there's something that you need to do, write it down or add it to your list and just make sure that you create a habit of looking at your list regularly. That goes along with contacts. I always find people that have little papers with little phone numbers written on it with a name or a scratch or something like that. And these papers are laying around. Go ahead and get that number and put it in your contact list. And then the next bit would be the file cabinet. If it's a file that you need to keep and you're keeping paper files, then go ahead and put it in your file cabinet. That can even be one of your trays. You can have an inbox for things you haven't looked at yet, action box for things that you need to do something about. You've looked at it, but you need to do something with it. And then a file box, meaning I've looked at it, I need to keep it, I don't have time to file it right now, but I'm going to put it in this box. So that's the bit about, I forgot where I am. Okay. Avoid generating unnecessary paper. And basically, try to get off a mailing list. If you receive your bills and statements, you can decide to receive them electronically. As grown-ups, most of the mail that we receive is probably a bill. So if decide whether you're going to keep your statements or not. But if you're not, try to receive them electronically. And don't order magazines that you don't read. That was a big thing for me. I called myself reading magazines and found out that I don't read them. I look at everything online. So as often as possible, get off of mailing lists. Try to, I don't think that they do it as much anymore, but instruct companies that you do business with not to sell your address so that you're not getting in as much junk mail. And basically cut down on the amount of paper that's coming in so that the things that do come in, you know that it's not likely to be junk mail. It's probably something that you actually need to action or do something with, something that's relevant to your life right now. So let's see. Step 4, creating a method for easy retrieval. One of my favorite statements as far as organization goes, if you can't find it or don't know that you have it, then it's not useful to you. So when you're deciding where you're going to put your papers, remember that it's personal use. So you kind of need to get inside of your own head and know how you think. So file something according to how you're going to use it, not necessarily how you received it. So what words come to mind when you're with this piece of paper? So that'll make it easier so that when you're looking for it later, it's like, okay, this is about insurance. I'm going to look in the insurance section. It's an insurance company. File with the most general categories possible. Give yourself fewer places to look so that it'll make it easier for when you find it. So like it's easier to find 10 papers in 2 files than 10 papers in 10 files, basically. Paper that is very important. Oh no, I skipped one. File with the most recent papers on top. They're usually the things that are going to be the most useful to you. And if it's very old, then you probably don't need to keep it at all anyway. So the most useful stuff, the most recent stuff is probably the things that are going to be the most useful. So put those things first if you have files that you're keeping over a long period of time. So what I was going to jump to was about important papers. When it comes to keeping important papers, I always recommend that clients keep all of their important life documents together in one place. I often like things like passports, birth certificates, life insurance policies, car titles, things like that. Oftentimes have them put together a, let's see if I can get this for you, like a life documents box. So this would be the thing that, you know how they say if your house is on fire, that, what do you grab? Do you grab, your important family pictures and things? No, grab this box. It's going to have everything that you need in it to restart, to basically get your life restarted. So I keep mine, for example, like I just showed you this box. This is an easy to grab and carry box, but I keep mine in a fire safe so that if I'm not there, that hopefully those things will be safe for a while. So if you look at I believe a few months back, check out the Ebony and Orderly website, webpage. There's a list for the documents that you would want to keep in your fire safe. And if there's some things that if you don't necessarily want a fire safe, you can keep it in a bank safety deposit box. But the main thing is to separate these things from your regular papers because they're more important, and make sure that they're accessible to you. So we're to the point of maintaining your system. So no matter how much work you put into it, putting your paper management system together, if you don't maintain it, then it'll be useless. I mean, that'll be the same thing with, I've got file cabinets, but I'm still stacking papers and not putting them in there if I've decided that that's the way that I want to do it. So again, consistency is key. Create a habit. So one of the things that you can do is determine when you're going to do it. Like meaning I don't have to do it as soon as everything comes in, but at least weekly I'm going to file my papers. At least monthly I'm going to do it. Quarterly, oftentimes things like I do things oftentimes according to paydays and whatnot. So I know that I'm going to be dealing with some things when bills come in. So the other thing that you might want to do is set up a regular schedule for purging the information that you have, because sometimes things, get really old, like it's no longer useful, or it's not something that's relevant to what you're doing. So if you put a date on those things when you file them, if it didn't come in with a date, then you'll know exactly how old it is, and put yourself on a regular purging schedule, be it quarterly or semi-annually. And oftentimes tax time is a good time to purge your documents. So basically, set it up and decide about when you want to do it, and start trying to create the habits of making it happen. Because organization, when it really comes down to it, is a habit. It's about you forming habits of doing things that are good, basically. Like oftentimes I'm organized without even thinking about it. So because it's a habit, it's kind of like driving the same route all the time and getting lost in thought and somehow still making it to your destination. So make organization a habit so that you can do it without even thinking about it. And in regards to purging, go back. Old and useless papers is a recipe for clutter. So be sure to purge, maintain your system, clean it out. So I have a little bit of notes here. I wanted to talk a little bit about going paperless. That's something that I've done. Electronic file management is a growing trend, especially with this age of everyone being on the computers and whatnot, and it works for some people. If you're a person that's very computer literate and used to doing searches and whatnot on a computer, then going paperless might be a thing. So that's the difference between having like a large file cabinet that takes up space, and like this is my file cabinet. So of course I have my life documents, things that can't be paperless, in another location, but everything else, including pictures, everything else is in one easy spot. So there are some pros and cons to going paperless. There's no paper to keep track of, so it minimizes the chance for clutter. A digital file cabinet can be set up the same way as a regular file cabinet. So any folders that you might create in your regular file cabinet, you can create that. Any subfolders and everything down. It's easy to perform a search in finding those things. If you have keywords, if you've named your files according to some type of like a specific naming convention, meaning all of your insurance files starts with insurance, then you can do a search for insurance and find the files that you need. As you can see, digital files take up less physical space. So in that office space where you may have had a file cabinet, all you have is a printer, things of that nature. And sometimes it also makes things easier when you're trying to conduct business online. There's lots of things where it's like, send me this, send me that. And they've made it easier for you to just email it to them rather than having to fax, faxes are almost outdated now. Or having to fax or mail it or physically take something there. Electronic files have become more popular with businesses as well. And the other bit is you can store your pictures. Like we're talking about papers and whatnot, but photos are another thing that people often have in regards to clutter. So like I said, on this, I have thousands of pictures in addition to files and whatnot. So, and the same thing, you can search those in the same way depending on how you name them. Now, the cons of going digital is that you need to be computer literate. You have to be a person that's very comfortable with using your computer. You have to have access to a scanner or being willing to utilize scanning services. And at times when there's something that you actually need printed out, you need to have access to a printer as well, because occasionally that's something that does happen. And a big thing is you need to be concerned about internet and computer security, because, digital files, people hacking into your system and whatnot. So you really need to be concerned about the security of your computer. And also backing up. Backing up is important so that you don't lose data. Like if I lose this, or if this drops or something like that, then it's easy to, it's easy to lose all of my data. So backing up and having multiple places is something that you need to keep in mind. In regards to paper management, I mean, that's all that I have for digital. Sorry about that. And if you have any questions about that, I will let you know. Wait, actually, I see a question. Showing your digital storage again, and what brand and how much does it cost? Oh, how about brand? This particular one is this is a Western Digital Toro. There are several different types of drives. Like this is a large storage drive. There's a 1 terabyte drive that holds a ridiculously large amount of data. There are several brands. They usually cost about, I think I probably paid about $50 for this one. They've gone down in price. They've gone down in price over the years, so you're able to get more data storage. Than you have before, but it usually costs about $50 depending on how much you want. I went with a terabyte just because I knew I have a lot of pictures and things of that nature. So in conclusion, for the paper management, don't expect to do it overnight. Give yourself time to create the habits. You spent, however much time you spent getting disorganized. Creating a new habit takes time. So give it 2 to 3 months. And don't just completely give up. Like there may be some things where you need to make some adjustments to how you how you handle your papers. So, and if all else fails, get somebody to help you. There's plenty of organizers around, and we'd love to. So, okay, that is all I have for you on paper management. Hopefully, I've answered all of your questions. I didn't see any. Don't forget to continue to join us for Set It Off Sundays at 7 o'clock. We're going to take a break next week for Easter. Happy holiday. And feel free to give us some more feedback. We'd love to answer as many questions as we can for you and provide the information that you need. All right. Good night.